What's up, everybody on the Zoom call? I think we have some people, so I'm just saying hello. Welcome to you all, and we're going to just give it a couple more minutes, and then we will get started with the meeting. So just letting everybody join in. Hey, Kenny, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Professor? Is this video for me, or is this only for your instructors?
It's for people that are running their own Zoom classes.
Okay. I'm just having a problem trying to get in with the Zoom, so I figure this might help me out. So I'll leave.
No, you don't
Thank
have
you.
to. Hey, Jordan, can you see Kenny? Yes, Jordan? Message Kenny a link on how to get into the Zoom classes. You can just go to the Easton BJJ website, Kenny.
Yeah.
And then it's all the classes are on there. You can literally just hit the link.
And it's pretty easy?
It's pretty easy.
All right, sir. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Good to see everybody.
See you, Kenny. Have a good day, man. Good to
All
see
right,
you.
later. Oh, no.
So right there you go. Good job.
How's it going, guys? It's Finney here. Great to be with you today. Elliot, thanks for putting this on, man.
What up, Finney? How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. Staying strong, you know what I mean? Staying strong to the end, fighting to the end. Elliot, I told you, man, this thing can't hold down an Irishman like me. You know what I mean?
I feel you, Finney. I feel you.
Even if I have to declare bankruptcy, bro, I'm going to build this thing up again.
That is exactly how I feel, too. Guys, we're just going to give it 2 more minutes, and then we'll get going.
Chris, what's up, man? Good to see you.
Not too much. How you doing, Sean? It's good to see you.
Good. Likewise.
Man, Angel Gonzalez, is that you, Angel? Amal's friend, Angel from Florida?
Okay, say it.
Yeah, that's me.
Hey, how you doing, Angel? This is Elliot. We met a long time ago when we were
I know.
Yeah. Good to see you.
What's up, buddy?
Good to talk, man. Good to talk.
Yeah, I don't see what. Can you see my face? You can't put my face there, right?
Now we can't see your face. You just have to allow video for us to see your face. Right
Oh,
next to
okay.
where you allowed the microphone, you can allow the video.
Okay.
Hey, there we are. Good to see you, man.
What up? How you doing?
Good, man. How are
I
you?
got my little COVID virus mask.
Yeah. All right, guys, we are going to jump into this, and as people come in, they can slowly catch up, I guess. First of all, man, thank you all very much. I greatly appreciate everyone coming. I try to really appreciate any time that anybody spends any time with me, whether I be teaching jiu-jitsu or whatever it is, like that you'll take your time and like hang out with me for an hour. Man, thank you all very much. I just want to go over a little bit of the structure of the meeting. Okay. So we are going to break the meeting down into, I guess, 5 parts. In that we are going to have, I will do a little intro of some overarching Zoom stuff. And then I have some of my staff here with me. As I call out your names, guys, just to say hello. First will be Jordan, and Jordan's going to handle the technical end of setting up the Zoom classes. Go ahead, Jordan, say hello.
How's it going, guys? Thanks for coming.
We're then going to move into the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu side with Alex Huddleston. Go ahead, Alex.
What's up, guys?
After Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, we will then move to the Muay Thai section, Muay Thai and kickboxing with Sean Madden.
Good to see you guys.
And then we're going to then move directly into the kids program with mostly Jamin Bagley with a little help from Valor, but he says he doesn't need it. So Jamin.
Glad to be here.
Good. So the way that each thing is going to work, guys, is I'll just kind of be the runner of it. Okay. I will facilitate. And after each section, we'll have time for a Q&A. So if you could just hold all of your questions, if you could just write them down somewhere. And if you have any questions or anything about that particular section, then you can just ask at the end. Okay. And you can do that two ways. If I see you, you can just raise your hand like to me, or two, in the chat, you can click on chat and then you can raise your hand over in the chat. Okay. And then I have my chat open so that if you need, if you have a question, and then I will facilitate. So that will happen after each one of the sections. Does that make sense? Is that clear with everybody? Awesome. Okay. So just a little bit. So I talked a little bit about who is here, and man, these guys, I have to touch on this every time. These are the guys that make it happen for us at Easton. So when I say that, man, we are nothing of Easton do I ever come to the attitude that is mine. We come to we always come with the attitude that this is ours and we are doing this together, you know, because we have a set of core values that we follow. And we can get into that a little later. Or in another meeting, we can talk about that at the end. And then those core values just allow us to communicate so well together, where none of us have to be correct. Like I know, for example, that, look, I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and I've been teaching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for, I don't know, when did them all let me start, 20 years. But Alex is the head of, is our BJJ program director. So that means we run the Jiu-Jitsu side through Alex. You know, and so we all can easily ask questions, and even me and Amal, who yes, we are the owners of the school, we can separate ourselves because of the core values that we have and the communication that we have with each other. So I really, really can't stress that enough with just the moving forward of your school, you know, from where you are now to anything that you want to do. Really developing those is really going to be amazing. And it is what has allowed us to grow from 2 or 3 schools to where we are now with 7. Hopefully we'll have 7 when this is all over, right? So you know, so yeah, that I can't stress that enough, that there is no boss, there is no there's no master. We do this as a team together, and we go to different pieces, you know, and communication's the key. Let's get into the Zoom stuff, you know. So I'm going to talk about just the overarching things that we have learned through our Zoom classes. The first thing that we did is to really understand why you're doing the Zoom classes. You're doing the Zoom classes, in our opinion, you know, from our perspective, to only keep the connection with your students, you know, like it's a connection thing. It is not a money thing. So first of all, anybody that's had to cancel their membership or suspend their membership, it's cool. Like they still get the Zoom classes. That is, again, that will go back to our core values is, we believe in the community. So it's so important that we feel that it's not one based on the other. They don't have to be a paying member to then get the classes. You know, they can have paused their membership for whatever reason. And then furthermore with that, and this is kind of a twofold thing, we have opened Zoom to everybody. So, I mean, any of you guys that are on this call right now, you could click on one of our Zoom classes and take our Zoom class. The class is open to everyone. This is twofold. One, it is really difficult to not do that technically, you know, and 2, again, core values, right? We are not, let's say you are from a small martial arts school where maybe your instructor doesn't have it together whatsoever, and they can't provide you anything right now. should they not be able to train? Should they not be able to join into a community? Should they not be able to feel like they're a part of something still? Because that's why we are all doing this, is more so than the jiu-jitsu or more so than the Muay Thai. I mean, those are the secondary pieces, right? We all know that the first piece is the community and the connection that you have with other people. So we don't want to leave anybody out. So it has nothing to do with money. And we do strongly feel that if you start setting it up around money and making money during this this time period, it will be to the detriment of you now or later. So connection and the community is the key. Now, don't get me wrong, that will help with money down the road if you set it up correctly, if you come at it from the right point of view. So some specifics. The first one is be patient when you're teaching these classes. Okay. First of all, nobody's ever done this before. Like, I think, I know Amal learned a lot from Angel. I was talking to Angel like a second ago in the intro, and man, I don't know that Angel ever thought that he'd be closing, and he's been in the martial arts business for probably 30, 40 years now. I don't think he'd ever thought that he'd be closing his school and teaching over an internet. So no one's good at this, right? Like no one has ever done this before, including us. So the way I handled that in my first class was I asked everyone to be patient with me. Like, man, I've never done this before. I will get better at this as we go, but I just announced my 1, nervousness, 2, uncomfortability, and 3, lack of skill probably at providing a solid Zoom class, because I've never done it, you know? And then I've slowly gotten better. I think as a team, we've slowly gotten better along the way. That being said, you're going to have to be very patient, right? You're going to have to be very patient with them. You're going to have connection issues. You're going to have them not being able to see you. You're going to have their dogs running in and out, right? I think we've all had that. I think Alex up there had a naked kid, like a lady was trying to take the class and a naked kid was running around in the background and she didn't know, you know? So you're going to have to be patient with your students, you know, more patient than normal, because who knows what they're doing? Who's ever taken a jiu-jitsu class over Zoom before? Like, again, new to everyone. Second, excuse me, it's the Corona cough, sorry. Secondly, it's not contagious through a microphone, so don't worry. Secondly, setting your setting, okay? Your setting is very important. First of all, you want to take some time before all of your classes to make sure that your setting is clear, okay? You want to be teaching from a place where nothing outside of martial arts is being shown, right? Like you have your mat and you have whatever, you know, like if you have Muay Thai pads, or, you know, I know Sean, if you saw that ad that I put together, Sean has like the flags put together, like hung up in his, you know, with the banner. So that's very important, you know, that it looks like a structured martial arts class. It's not just this like, yo, bro, what up? If you can see all of our staff here today, we are all wearing Easton gear, even on this meeting, because we're the presenters. We're the ones teaching the class. So we look like it's professional, because we're going to demand that from our students as best we can, right? That they are here for a class and learning. And so that's very important. You know, like I said, with the branding, make sure there's no paraphernalia, you know, make sure it's not like, I was making fun of one of our professors, Valor. Valor and I have this little thing back and forth with coffee, and I saw his little coffee stack behind him. So yeah, I would say that most likely you kind of want to avoid that kind of stuff when you are teaching, right? You want to have a clear area and only that area for martial arts. The next thing we do is we have support. So Jordan is our tech guy. And man, he's been working his butt off, right? He is on like every Zoom class that we teach. Rodrigo, how are you? You know, he's on every Zoom class that we teach. He is there to allow people in the waiting room. He's there for, if any of you were on the last Zoom when we got Zoom bombed, I would have had no clue how to deal with that. I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh, I guess this meeting's over. But Jordan knew exactly how to deal with that. We had a tech guy that ran through that. So I would suggest having somebody learn the tech, so that you can move on, so that you can have some help. An assistant, especially with the kids classes. Okay. If you're teaching kids classes, an assistant is really, really helpful. And Jamin's going to get into this more, but an assistant in your class, so that if you have somebody struggling, you can separate that out a little bit. And I believe there's a way to do that so that they can help that kid by themselves. I think Jamin's up there nodding his head. That's exactly what it is that we do, so an assistant in the class is so important. And then really to structure your class ahead of time, right? I know sometimes we wing classes. We don't. We never wing classes. But some people do wing classes. This is too new. This is too much. There's so many variables. You can't wing this, right? There's too much that can go wrong. You're not on the mat. You're not touching anybody to help them. Nothing. You have to structure your class out. And I think each department that has the classes is going to go through the structure of the classes and how they do teach that structure. So we will give you our structure. Two more things here before we jump into the particulars. Your energy. Your energy must be high. You have to have high energy. You can't be low normally. And this is going to be effort, because normally you feed off the energy of your class. You're in the room. We all love teaching martial arts. That's why we do it. We are ready to go, right? And like, man, those people energize us. And that's such a thing that I know I lean on, I love it. I get pumped. Like, I'm like, hell yeah, here we go. 50 people, let's rock, what happens when no one's there, right? When it's just this, all of you quiet, microphones off, staring at me, right? It right? You get awkward. It can be difficult. So you have to get a cup of coffee or a Red Bull or whatever it is you do and go, because you have to bring the energy to the class. Part of that is going to be how you talk. Okay. The verbal cues you use. One of the things, first, when I say how you talk, man, talk to everyone, right? Talk to everyone. Like, I see Frank's writing down some notes right now. Frank, man, thank you. I appreciate the notes, right? Like, you got to try to, as you teach, there's Melissa. Hi, Melissa. How are you? I haven't seen you since the World. That was a good trip, the Worlds, last time I saw you. Excuse me. So you want to touch everyone, right? You can't physically touch everyone right now. Okay. But you want to make it seem as though you're touching everyone. Okay. One of the things that really connects us is that we use each other's names. And one of the ways sometimes what we'll get into is in some of the partner classes, the person might be using a spouse as their partner. So try to introduce yourself to the spouse. Like, for example, like if I'm just going to use Melissa, if she was using her boyfriend or her husband, I'd say, hey, Melissa, how are you? Can you unmute real fast? And she could unmute. How are you, Melissa? No. And this takes a little while. Look, this is a perfect example. I have to be patient,
There we go. I'm unmuted.
Good. How are you, Melissa? Good to see you.
I'm great. Nice to you too.
That was a perfect example of patience. She was not ready for me to do that. And your student might not be ready for you to do that. So you have to be patient. And I can say, maybe the person that's with her, I can say, hey, Melissa, can you tell me, can I meet the person with you? What's their name?
Her name is Bella.
Bella. Hi, Bella. How are you? Good to meet you, Bella. And then I can talk to Bella too. This is such an important thing, to really include everyone in the class, so that while you're helping them, you're not saying, hey, you, right? Because normally sometimes, you can just go over and touch the person and say, hey, can we do this differently? We can't do that now. Two more things to go with the verbal talking is, one, correcting people is very hard. Right? Correcting people is going to be very, very hard, because just the dynamic of it, in that when you're in class and you correct someone, it's just you, them, and their partner. On the Zoom here, everybody can hear me. Like I think, how many people do we have on the call right now? We have 26 people. So if I'm going to correct Valor up there in the corner, and maybe Valor is very self-conscious, which we know a lot of people can be. You know, I had this happen to me in my class. He doesn't want to be corrected in front of everybody. You know, so what happened to me was somebody jumped, like their spouse there, you know, one guy was a purple belt and the lady was a white belt, and he wanted me to help her and she wanted nothing to do with it. So he unmuted and was like, "Professor, can you help Angela?" And she was like, "No, right?" Because she was a white belt in an advanced class, like it was an all levels advanced class, and she was like, "No, I'm good," because she didn't want to be corrected in front of everybody, you know? So you can't be like, "Hey, Jordan, you're messing that up. Yay, go back." You know? So be very careful there. The last thing we're going to go over before I open this part up to questions, guys, is the verbal cues that you do give when you do correct or when you do teach. You have to demonstrate your right hand and your left hand. So if I say, "Hey, I need your left hand here," I go, "Hey guys, left hand." And I raise my left hand and then I put it exactly where I want it. You know, sometimes I'll go, "Hey guys, my left hand, it was here. Now it's going to go here." Because it can be hard to see sometimes over the Zoom. If you say, "Hey, I put my left hand here," and they're looking at it backwards and through a screen and upside down and inverted, and somebody's holding a tie pad, and who knows? Right? So that has really helped us in the overarching theme of our classes, you know? So all of those things: first, patience; second, your setting; third, make sure you try to have some support with you; fourth, structure your class ahead of time; fifth, your energy; and sixth, the words and verbal cues that we use are super, super important. Before we go on, do we have any questions about the overarching? So if you do, raise your hand or just raise your hand in the chat. Melissa, go ahead. Go ahead.
So what do you think between using Instagram Live versus Zoom?
So Jordan's going to get into that. So the Instagram Live, there can be a lot of connection issues. It can be the chat is not as good. It's harder to roll through. And then what we really want to be able to do is we want to be able to stream immediately to YouTube for the people that cannot attend your class live, right? So you want to be able to give that class to, I know I've had people take my class from yesterday today. You know, so the Instagram Live is the Instagram and the Facebook are not as good as the Zoom because the connectivity. So but Jordan's going to go over all of that in the tech. Any other questions, guys? Finney, mirroring students when you demonstrate, it's so hard. So I sit down and I show the move. Okay, just in general. And then I come to my screen just like this and I talk to them, you know, and I scroll through my screen and I tell them that if they have a question, like for example, if Valor had a question, he could come to his screen and he would just wave his hand. Go ahead, Valor, start waving your hand. And then I would see this and then I would jump in and help them and walk them through if they had a question. Anybody else before we move on to tech? Let me just make sure. Scroll to my other screen. Okay. So guys, I'm going to introduce Jordan here, and Jordan is going to take over this. Jordan has done a great job. This is kind of how we do things at Easton. He made himself available to us saying, "Hey, look, I have this skill. You know, I have this skill of videography and editing and all this other stuff." And then he just helped us. You know, we made a lot of videos and he had these skills, and now he's one of our GMs. He's the GM of our Longmont school. And we get a lot of questions about whether or not you have to be a black belt to run a school. Jordan is a purple belt. So Jordan is a purple belt and running the school. He is, how do we feel about that? We feel great about that. We do have black belts teach, but that does not mean that they're the runners of the school. They can teach a great class. They necessarily can't run a school very well. You know, some kind, obviously we have a lot of black belts doing an amazing job, but we don't confuse the two. We will let a purple belt run a school as long as they have shown the ability to run a school and be able to manage, not just do tasks. So the task that Jordan is very good at, though, is really helping us now with the technical side of things. So Jordan, take it away.
Awesome. Really quick before I share my screen here, Melissa, I just wanted to piggyback on Elliot's answer really quick. I think streaming behind the scenes on Instagram or Facebook is a good way to market your live class. So people are reminded, oh yeah, that's going on right now. I want to jump in. The advantage that Zoom has over Instagram and Facebook is it's a two-way street, right? I can see the students and they can see me. Whereas if I'm just doing a class on Facebook or Instagram, they can only see me. And so that interactive component isn't there. And our primary goal with these is engagement. So that's why we're choosing Zoom in this, this conferencing platform. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And then hopefully everybody can see it. Let's see, participants, admit, there we go. All right, can everybody see my screen? Go ahead and give me a nod if you can see it. Fantastic. All right, so let's start with Zoom. So Zoom has a ton of options and you can configure your platform to your liking. I'm just going to go over a few key core technical settings that we use that I think that are pretty good for everyone, and then everything else after that, it really just comes down to personal taste and whatever you want. So first and foremost, we're using pro level Zoom accounts. It's $15 a month. The next step up is $20 a month, but you have to purchase a minimum of 10 users. So you're going to start at $200 a month there. So we only need 4 Zoom accounts total to run our full class schedule. The reason we have 4 is because you can't have simultaneous meetings. So right now, the Zoom account that is running this webinar, we couldn't have a class going on at the same time through this Zoom account. So we have 1 per program. We have 1 for jiu-jitsu, we have 1 for striking, we have 1 for kids, and then we have 1 for our supplemental classes. Our supplemental classes are stuff like we have body weight workouts, yoga classes. We even have an instructor leading some guided meditations. It's pretty cool. So to make things as easy as possible for our members, instead of having a bunch of various links and passwords for them to be able to join classes, we actually use 1 link and 1 password for all of the classes relative to that program. So all of the jiu-jitsu classes have the same meeting link and the same password, just so people can hop on. It's the same info every time. And so the way that you set that up is once you log into your Zoom account and you're in your dashboard here, you can go to meetings, personal meeting room. And here are the couple of settings. You want to make sure that this require meeting password is enabled, right? By default, Zoom does enable this. They don't require it to happen. If you were a part of our last webinar, Elliot mentioned this. We did have someone crash, drop some racial slurs. There was another class we had where some Russian DJ got a hold of our link and was about to like drop a DJ set in the middle of it. Kicked him out before that happened, but requiring a password is a good way to help to filter those people out. The other settings that we enable is we enable join before host. Sometimes we have people jumping on these Zoom calls quite early and they just kind of have it on while they're getting ready for class. Enable the waiting room. This is a really good feature to see everybody that's joining your class before you let them in. It's very rare you're going to recognize all the names of people. Sometimes they have weird account names. They're using someone else's account. But at least if you see anything suspicious, it allows you to put eyes on it. I like to have this setting set up, record the meeting automatically. So as soon as the meeting starts, it starts recording in the cloud. There's ways you can edit and trim that up later if need be, but it just seems worth it to have it automatically recording in case the host forgets to stop that recording meeting. We've talked a little bit about live streaming. I have a separate video that goes into the tech side of live streaming that I'll share here in the chat after I'm done sharing my screen. But what I figured out is you can actually enable your custom live streaming service settings for the account. So each time you start a meeting, you can just click enable go live on custom streaming service, and you don't have to input the streaming URL and stream key every single time. So we don't live, like as we mentioned, we don't live stream all of our classes, but we do try and record all of them and make them available on demand. This is something that we've been getting our workflow down over the last couple of weeks. So the best way that I've found to set up that workflow to make your classes available on demand is actually through an app called YouTube for Zoom. And the way that you can set that up on your Zoom account is if you go over here to this advanced option and click the app marketplace. It's going to take you to this screen, and there's a lot of different things here, but the one that you're going to be looking for is going to be under recordings here. And then it's YouTube for Zoom. You can click on this and it will take you to this screen. And from this screen, you're going to be able to approve the application, install the application, and then you'll be able to configure and connect to your YouTube account right here. That being said, the other thing that I set up is in the recording settings. I do have a few recordings that I think are pretty key. You want to make sure recording the active speaker with shared screen is turned on. I don't do any of these other settings. You don't need a separate audio file or separate video files. I have all the automatic recording set up to record in the cloud. The host can start and stop that. At the pro level account, you're only given 1 GB of storage. That storage fills up pretty quick if you have multiple classes per day. I've figured out that after about 2 or 3 classes that day, that storage limit is set up. So I actually have the auto delete cloud recordings after 1 day turned on because they are being automatically uploaded to YouTube after the class is over. Once the recording is available in the cloud, it gets uploaded to YouTube and then it's automatically deleted a day later. And I think just a couple of things to note, and then I'll wrap it up here. Recording on your computer versus in the cloud will allow you to record a little bit higher quality. So that's something to keep in mind. If you don't mind the extra work of uploading a file directly from your computer to a YouTube channel, that can be a nice way to go. And I think that is the gist of everything that I wanted to go over. So I'm going to stop sharing my, oh, one more thing I just remembered regarding the setup. So like I mentioned, the link and the password is the same for every class. The way that we've made that easily available to all our students is we use MindBody as our CRM system for most of the academies. And if you're familiar with MindBody, they do have a scheduling widget, which you can embed on a website. And so what we've done is we've gone into our system and we've added the same featured schedule, so to speak, for all of our locations. So if I were to click on a location schedule here, I'll go back a day to when we had a little bit more classes available. Like I said, you can click on a jiu-jitsu class, and then in the description is the link, and this link's the same for all the jiu-jitsu classes. They can click that link, copy the password, and enter the class. And that is pretty much the core setup for the tech side. Happy to answer any questions if we have them at this time before we move on.
All right, guys. Again, so you can see about the whole communication and core values piece. I don't know how to do any of that. So maybe a little bit. Yeah, that's part of the team thing that we do. Everyone's one team. Any questions, guys, for Jordan? Just raise your hand or type them in the chat, and I will go through them. So, okay, Finney, go ahead.
Hey, Jordan, man, thanks a lot for that. What do you recommend as far as equipment? You know, I'm imagining for myself at home, as well as trying to just set up all the other instructors so when they're at their houses or wherever the heck they are, they can actually, you know, have this look good. You know, what's your thoughts on like, you know, a web camera? I've heard you can get some like even little like, you know, lav mics that Bluetooth to your laptop. Like what are you guys trying to do with that?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've tried a few things. I know So let's see, I'll try and answer all that. And if I miss anything, just let me know. So far, we've just been letting people use their own laptops and the web cameras that come with those laptops. Once they, using that is really just a matter of making sure you've got enough light. Most of these cameras don't work very well in low light. So making sure that they're in a very well lit room and making sure that the lighting source is coming from behind the camera as much as possible. Like right now, if I turn my web camera towards my window, you see what happens to my face, right? I get super silhouetted. All these web cameras, they're going to auto adjust their exposure and they're going to adjust to the brightest thing in the room. So when I'm on calls like this, I turn mine so it's a little bit more pointed towards my face. I'm not teaching classes in this space, so I don't have a very good lighting setup. But I noticed like Professor Huddleston in his classes, that was an adjustment that he had to make, was getting some lighting behind the camera facing him because of the way his space is configured. He's got a big set of blinds behind him, and that was challenging. So that's the first key. Audio has been a little bit of an issue for some of the instructors, and there's been some different things. Elliot has not had a problem with his audio because he still speaks in his loud teaching voice, whether he's in a little room or in a room of 50 people. It's all the same.
My wife yells at me. My wife goes, "Stop screaming in my ear."
He can't help it. It's in his body, right? It is something to be cognizant of. Laptop microphones are designed to pick up what's close to them, right? Because they want to cut out on background noise. So there's a couple of things you can do. As an instructor, you can make sure you're super loud, no matter what your distance is from that computer. You can also go into your settings on the computer and turn up the input level of your microphone, so it's going to pick up more noises. That is another option. The other thing that is probably important to help the teacher make the class go well and look good is having a dedicated support. And Elliot touched on this a little bit, but we have found that like after the first class, we went to this immediately. So Zoom can have multiple people logged in through the same account. Like right now in this webinar, I have myself, Elliot, and Alex. You can see we all have the same Easton logo in the participants room. We're all logged in through the same account. There's only one host, but if for any reason I needed to make someone else the host, I can just hover over their name, click more, and then click make host. If you're logged in through the host account and you're not currently the host, there's going to be a button that little pops up that in the participants window that says reclaim host. So you can just snag that. So a lot of times the teacher will start the room. Somebody else can log in through the host account. They can take over the host controls. They can admit people from the waiting room. They can make sure people are muted. They can make sure people are getting their questions answered. And the teacher can just kind of check out on the tech side and just focus on the class. And that's really the best way to go that we've found. Let's see. Did I cover everything, Finney? Did I leave anything out?
Yeah, that sounds good. So overall right now for your guys' game plan, you're not worried about trying to have instructors invest in like lav mics or any special cameras, just going with their laptops for now and making it happen.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, our primary goal is engagement, and we can do that with a laptop camera. If these were different times and different circumstances, we might be looking at production quality and investing in some gear to make it better. But, I think we're all in the same boat right now that it's not the time to be spending money that way. So
cool, man. Thank you.
And it's not time to be perfect, guys. Right? Like, if you have it all already, then and you know how to use it, like Mike said in the chat here, Jordan owned a video production company, so we've been able to do some cool things. If you don't get crazy, right? Don't get crazy. The key is that your students see you. Okay, so if you can make it so that your students see you, then you're good. You're good. Melissa, did Mike answer your question? It is the same widget as Heel Code.
Okay, so you just enter it in your MBO as normal, and then it just magically syncs.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like if you have that Heel Code widget set up for a specific location or your academy, you just create a class schedule just like you would, and then the magic happens.
Okay, so I enter it in my MBO first, then I go into the Heal Code website widget, and then I have to, there's settings to be able to, and it's going to show differently on my MBO schedule that it's a Zoom class.
Yeah. So the way that we delineated that was we just put Zoom class in the title.
Okay.
So it just says, Zoom all levels, no gi, BJJ, or Zoom all levels, kickboxing, Muay Thai, etc.
Okay.
Okay,
And
guys.
do you have to upgrade to, like, if you just have a basic free Zoom account, that's not going to work for running the academy?
Well, there's a limit to how many participants you have in the free account, right? And so I think it might be limited to like 3 video participants. So you're not going to be able to have a very big class. Furthermore, I did see on the Zoom blog that for educators, we might be a way for us to fall under that category. They're removing this limit, but for most people, there is a 40-minute limit to that basic free account. All of our Zoom classes, we're making them 45 minutes because we want to leave some time for interaction. So just that 5 minutes over, it's a little bit too much. So I think that you're going to find that beyond like 1 or 2 people, that the free account isn't going to serve your needs.
Okay, we are going to move on. Mike just put the Zoom link for the pricing in the chat, so if anybody needs that, yes, Jordan said that nicely. You can't have the. I'll say it a little more definitively. You cannot have the free Zoom. The free Zoom is not going to cut it. We're going to move on though to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with Professor Alex Huddleston. So some of you have seen Alex compete and things of that nature. I think you're the current Fight to Win Masters heavyweight champ, right? Still?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the
Hopefully.
big guys. But more than anything, I would say he's an amazing instructor and an amazing communicator. And we all know that sometimes it's the level of communication that somebody can do rather than their technical prowess. He has both that really makes the most amazing instructor. So we are going to jump in right now to the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu side, where we have delineated it into sections, and he's going to go over all of that. So Alex, take it away.
All right, guys. Thank you all so much for coming in. It's incredible to share this time with you. I hope you and your family are finding some calm in all this chaos. And I'm so excited to get to work with everyone on the Jiu-Jitsu Zoom classes. I think for us, it was really important that our core values kind of guide in our creation of this new training experience. Online classes are this really unique way for us to interact and connect with our community. But they definitely came with some challenges, right? We're still discovering. So please take everything here as like a living document, right? Our goal was to create accessible jiu-jitsu classes for our community, regardless of their situation at home, right? So not everybody has a partner. Not everyone has the means to buy a gi dummy, right? Or something to drill on. Some of us are just going to be watching, right? So Zoom created a platform that we could get everybody together. And then we provided something, it's got a name, we call it Stuffy Steve. You might hear it called Stuffy Buddy. It's a gi dummy that, there's a lot of examples online. We create our own video, and I think Jordan has the YouTube link for that. Just basic stuff they have at home, right? Their gi. We suggest the jacket and the pants, right? We're gonna use some pillows, a hoodie, sweatpants, some towels in there. It takes about 4 towels. Use their belt, and we'll show you how to tie it all together. And now they have a drilling partner at home, right? So not everybody is needing it, but for the ones that are, it's super easy, super accessible, and it allows us to really open up on what we're going to teach in our curriculum. Let's see. I got some notes here. I'll make sure I don't forget anything, guys. Some big things for us were how do we implement it, what the classes looked like, and the structure for them. We decided on emphasizing connection, interaction, sweat, smile, learn, right? Classic things that we already do in the dojo, just transferring that into the Zoom platform. We broke it down into 3 levels of classes. Fundamentals, our fundamentals classes, we kind of label those as no partner necessary, right? So whether you have a stuffy Steve or just a pillow, just watching, doesn't matter. We're gearing that class towards students with like brand new, right? 0 to 2 years experience, things that they can do on their own with not having to have a huge library of understanding in jiu-jitsu, right? Then we have our all levels classes. These are partner suggested classes, which means that we're going to show both, right? We're going to show the technique on the gi dummy. We're going to show the technique with a partner. So they have, we're looking at, this is the students that are white to purple belt, right? Like they're coming in, they want to train, they know some jujitsu, they might be using their significant other or their kid, right? So they can't get too complex, right? So, but this is the class that we're able to focus a little more on drilling rather than solo techniques like we're doing in fundamentals. And I'll explain that a little bit in a second. Finally, we have our advanced classes. These are classes that partner required, right? So you're gonna see like Professor Elliott's class. That is a really high level advanced no-gi class. It's accessible to everyone, but if you're taking that class, you know you're either taking notes or you have a partner to do the techniques with, right? We try to offer these classes throughout the day. Some things that we've noticed is people really seem to be responding to using the schedule that they were on before, right? So if they were training at 6 o'clock before everything happened, that time is still available for them. The one caveat to that we've noticed, the morning classes, man, not too many cats are waking up to do jiu-jitsu at 6 in the morning on a pandemic. So we had to adjust a little bit there, right? We're seeing more mid-mornings, lunchtime classes are a little bit bigger hit, but our evenings tend to be our higher attended courses. And kids jiu-jitsu is a little different. We'll get to hear from Coach Shaman about that in a second. Basically, we're trying to teach the class in a way that the students can feel like they're at class in the school, right? So we're still keeping with our structures. We're still bowing in, fixing our gi, introductions. We're still clapping to break techniques. We're still teaching technique as we demo, right? I'm going to teach and explain. And then the difference, especially for our fundies and intermediate level classes, our instructors are having a lot more interaction with students when we're talking through the technique with each student, right? So, and what I mean by that is if I teach and demo, like we'll say the Toriando pass, then I will walk through that same technique while the advanced student mirrors me, right? So, okay, advanced students, it's your turn first. We're going to walk through it. Junior students, switch roles, your turn. We're going to walk through it. And then we're going to break. The instructor kind of moves towards their screen. They're going to go grid view on the camera and they get to watch the students drill the technique that they just worked on, right? It seems to help with the questions. They get to actually go step by step through the technique with you. And if they get lost, they hear your voice on the camera. They jump back in where they were. Let's see. We'll go through this a little bit. I know we're running a little short on time, guys. All our classes are structured very similar on the jiu-jitsu side. They're 45 minutes in length. There's that 3 to 5 minute intro. There's that 8 to 10 minute warm up. Like in a fundamentals course where I expect them to be by themselves, that warm up is going to be your classic fundamental jiu-jitsu class warm ups. Jumping jacks, squats, break falls, stand up and base, bridges. These are all great jiu-jitsu techniques that they don't need anything to assist to do them. The difference would be for our intermediate level classes, there'll be less emphasis on solo drills, more emphasis on partner drills, whether that's the gi dummy, your pillow, or a partner. We'll get our 10 to 20 minutes of drilling / technique. So most of our instructors are showing a flow. The drill is the flow and the end of the flow is some sort of technique where they're spending a little bit more time emphasizing like the details. We're running a 5-minute Q&A after everything because inevitably everyone has questions on this format. And then we're doing our same closeouts, right? Your standard martial arts class ending speech, your acknowledgement for everyone being there, saying goodbye, setting up your next class, as well as reminding the students of how broad the schedule is and opportunities to train. Hopefully that gives us a little bit of an understanding of what our classes are looking like, how we've systematized them a bit to where there's levels and the students are well aware of each level, trying to provide as many opportunities as we can for everyone. Thank you guys so much.
Guys, before I jump in with the Q&A for Alex, just so you all understand, we do this with not in a pandemic. This is how we roll through all of the time. Alex holds weekly meetings with all of his, we call them program directors in at each school where they are going through their jiu-jitsu classes and how we're structuring them and how we are doing them so that we are all communicating very well and moving through things. So this is not all of the things that we're doing now they've shifted in the sense that it's geared towards the pandemic and how we're doing it over Zoom. But this is a daily for us or a weekly for us. Any questions for Alex, guys, that I'll open it up to? If you have any questions, just raise your hand. Okay, we will move on. Let's go to Sean. I think a lot of you know Sean that are here for the Muay Thai section. Sean is very active. He is amazing as an instructor. He was a very good fighter, and he's an amazing coach of the athlete as well, you know, understanding all the levels of the journey through martial arts and through fighting. So here he is. He is the director of our Muay Thai program, like the program director overarching all the schools. So Sean Madden, what up?
Thanks, Professor. Hey guys, good to see everyone. Good to see all my Muay Thai friends on here. We got a bunch of killers on here and a bunch of really high level coaches. So thank you guys for taking the time to join us today to kind of talk about how we do things at Easton. I wanted to start off with kind of how we structure our striking program at Easton outside of these pandemic times. I've talked to a lot of you guys actually individually, kind of how we do this, but I want to go over it one more time. It helps kind of play into what we are doing for our Zoom classes online. So we have two main portions to our striking program. And I say striking because we have it divided into our kickboxing program, which is our bag classes, which is an onboarding into our Muay Thai program. So we really have about 4 levels of striking classes. We have our kickboxing class, like I said, heavy bag classes, no contact. And then we have our Muay Thai fundamentals, Muay Thai intermediate, Muay Thai advanced, right? And our students can kind of progress through these. Our day one student would start in our kickboxing classes where there's no contact, right? We're learning. We have a fundamental 8-week rotating curriculum that we use for that class that goes over the basic offense for Muay Thai. That class is designed for people who aren't comfortable, obviously, with contact. I see a lot of people get thrown right into a pad class day one, right? They don't know how to hold pads. They get partnered with someone who's 2 feet taller than them, 50 pounds heavier than them, and they go, oh shit, I do not want to do this. This is not what I signed up for, right? So our kickboxing class provides basically an on-ramp into getting more confident with their technique, being in the gym, in the academy a longer period of time and sort of acclimating to that before we progress them into our pad work classes. So we have our kickboxing class, like I said, and then our 3 levels of Muay Thai after that. And then in our Muay Thai fundamentals class, that's when we start to introduce our pad work. And really the core of that class is learning how to hold pads and become a good pad holder. If you can teach your students to become a good pad holder, in my opinion, in my experience, it's very easy how to teach students how to hit pads. It's a lot harder to teach them how to hold pads the right way, right? And this is not Thailand where you have your personal coach and your personal trainer holding pads for you every day. You have to teach your student body how to hold pads the right way. And that's what our Muay Thai fundamental class is designed to do specifically. So just splitting those up so you guys can see our kickboxing onboarding, followed by our Muay Thai program on top of that. So moving into our Zoom classes, the way we've structured those is we have a kickboxing class and we have a Muay Thai class. The Muay Thai class is in all levels, and by all levels, we mean fundamentals and above. If it was a day one student taking class with us online, they would be joining our kickboxing class. And like Professor Elliott talked about earlier and Professor Alex, anyone can join these classes. These are public classes. You know, so we kind of market it towards that. We say on the kickboxing, you can do this by yourself. It could be your first class ever if you want to join that right into that class. In terms of structure, we are mirroring what the jiu-jitsu program is doing in terms of time and the actual setup of the class. We're doing a 45-minute class. I found that a lot of my students enjoy that. And a lot of them want an hour really, but they've found that the 45 minutes in this time works really well for them. We're starting class just as we would in the academy. We line up, we bow in, we Y, we pre-frame the class, we greet everyone, right? And then we get right into our warm up. For the kickboxing classes, you can do that by yourself with no equipment at all, or you can do that if you have a heavy bag. And we found that a decent number of our students have heavy bags at their house that they've been practicing with. Another thing that we did that has worked really well, and if you guys haven't done this, I would definitely encourage this, is loan out your heavy bags. Obviously, ours were just sitting in the academy. No one was using them. So we created kind of a loaning system to move all of our equipment out of the academies to get our students using those and help keep them engaged. And I found that that's been really successful with our classes. So if that's something you guys haven't done yet, hit me up after this webinar and I can talk to you about how we set that up, how you can kind of move your equipment out without worried about it not coming back either. We have something in place for that too. So the kickboxing classes by yourself or on a heavy bag. And we are staying on our 8-week curriculum for the kickboxing classes, just going over the fundamental basic techniques, more than anything, basic offense. And I'll touch on that with the Muay Thai classes in just a second. And then as always, in our kickboxing classes, we're focused on correct technique 100%, because this is our foundation for our Muay Thai program later on. And then also getting a good workout, right? We want to make sure these guys are sweating. It's the standard sweat, smile, learn that all of you guys know already, right? But we're making sure that we're mixing in the body weight workouts and we're really pushing them in that class in that 45 minutes. In the Muay Thai classes, this is where it gets a little bit trickier. And I think this is where all you guys have been working on these classes, specifically with the Muay Thai, is that you have now a wide range of people taking that class. You have people who have no equipment at all. You have people who have a heavy bag. You have people who have a partner but no Thai pads. You have people with Thai pads. So it's almost like teaching all of your classes at the same time from the academy at once. So one thing that we've done, obviously, that has helped this a lot is we have our highest and most experienced instructors teaching our main Zoom classes, the ones that are able to be fluid and pivot as best as possible. But what it really comes down to, in my opinion, is just teaching specific techniques that are applicable across the board for all of those modalities of training. You pick a combination, right? And then after that, I like to give a recommendation. Okay, if you're shadow boxing, you're going to add this on the front end and this on the back end. If you're hitting the bag, you're going to add this. If you have a partner, you can do this. So I like to give, with every combination, I'm giving a couple options that should cover all of the students in the class. And make sure that they have something that they can adjust to based on the equipment that they have with them. Let's see, aside from that, with the Muay Thai classes, this is something that we've been talking about too. It's very tough to teach defense in these classes, right? A lot of our curriculum, we have mirrored. We have 1 week of offense followed by a week of defense for that technique. That way our students see both sides of the technique and we get basically 2 weeks of learning on that technique. It's very hard to do by yourself. You guys know this, right? A big part of defense is reaction, seeing something come at you, reacting to it. So what we've done is we've started to mostly steer towards offensive techniques in our Muay Thai and our kickboxing classes. What we are doing on the side is creating videos with our instructors on DIY homemade defense reaction stuff that they can do. For example, right, just the standard tennis ball on the string in the kitchen, how to assemble this, what purpose it serves, how they can work on the reactions at home by themselves. Wall ball drill, throwing the tennis ball at the wall, catching it with the other hand, whatever it is, right? We've created a list of 7 to 10 videos that we're going to put together with our instructors on how to assemble these things at home, and then how you can use those to work on improving. Necessarily be teaching the defense inside the actual classes, but we've created a library for them to work on that stuff on their own and stay sharp in the meantime. That way we're still able to cover offense and defense aboard with everything. 45-minute classes, like we said. Personally, for me, I've always had a bit of a time management issue. I think that's probably true for a lot of the coaches on here. all of a sudden you look over and you're out of time for the class. So what I've been doing is I'll run it up to about 40 minutes. I'll leave the last couple of minutes, and then I stay on for the last 15 minutes to answer any questions. More than anything, what I found is the students don't even have questions for me. They want to stick around. They want to say hi. They want to talk. And it circles back to exactly what we're talking about with these classes. It's all about engagement and connecting. In terms of what I'm looking for when the students are doing the techniques, I'll demonstrate it. I'll give them a minute or two to do the technique, and then I'll go watch the screen. Just like Professor Elliott said earlier, we're big corrections on these classes, right? It's hard to teach martial arts on the internet virtually. You know, it's just not the same experiences in the academy. We all know this. The students know this. So, you know, there's praise, correct, praise, but I would say the P's are capitals and the C is lowercase here in this case. We're really focusing on a lot of praise, saying the student's name, catch them doing something right every single time. Very, very minor corrections, but it's a lot of praise and it's a lot of just saying their name and trying to get that connection with them. So when you guys are watching the technique after you've demonstrated, in my personal recommendation, I wouldn't stress too much on correcting everything. You know, it's hard enough to try to teach the martial arts, like I said, virtually, you know, so focus on the praise. One last thing that I would like to say is that in terms of demonstrating, for the kickboxing classes, we've had one instructor, which is all you need because the students can do it by themselves. In the Muay Thai classes, we've had two people working. So for example, I've been having my girlfriend Abby demonstrate with me since we lived together. We've been training in the garage. Two things that we've been doing is we'll have, so the students can get different angles. Like we said, it's kind of tricky with the cameras, mirrored imaging, whatever it is. I will demonstrate facing the camera. Abby will demonstrate facing to the side. So that way we can see two different ways. And then when we demonstrate on the pads or drilling, I'll do it once, we'll switch positions, and then we'll go from the other side, right? We don't have the luxury of having students circled around us here when we demonstrate and then being able to see all sides and all angles. So you guys may have to do it a couple of times, change positions when you demonstrate and allow the students to see kind of a 360 variation, but you're gonna have to be doing the moving. So I found that to be successful with the demonstrating. Last, just to reinforce this, everyone said this already, but the teamwork is the biggest part of this. Every class we've had 2, 3, 4 instructors on the class, either participating in the class or watching the class. Last Tuesday, I had a pretty bad internet connection at my house and my internet gave out when I started the class. I was about to throw my computer at the wall in my garage. Meanwhile, two of the other instructors jumped on the class. One started the warm up and then the other one picked it up right after that and taught the class, and like nothing happened. We had 40 people on that class. Unfortunately, I couldn't get on to the very end of class, but both of those guys saved my butt in a big way. And that's only because they were on the call, they were watching the class and participating in the class, and they were ready to pick it up seamlessly. So if you can, I would highly recommend trying to have at least a couple other instructors on the call available. If anything, if they're just watching the class, they can also just type in the chat and give some encouragement to your students there too. I'm sure the students will value that as well. So that's all I have for you guys. I think most of you guys know this stuff already, but it's just kind of what we've been doing and what's been successful. So Crew Pat, good to see you, my friend. If you guys have any questions, Elliot will open it up and I'm glad to answer.
Guys, thanks, Sean, very much there. I know I see so many people that are already ninja instructors that like, I'm not a Muay Thai coach, and yeah, I know so many of you just from around the scene. So I'm sure you guys know so much of this, and we appreciate you coming and joining in. I'm going to answer Rinalfo asked me a question privately real fast, and then I'll open up the questions for Sean. He asked, how do we let people know about the Zoom classes? Man, the key here is communication. We are constantly communicating with our students as far as letting people know. I think it's 5 phone calls a day, right? Like, so, excuse me, we have it broken down where all of our staff that is still working, our general managers, our instructors, the ones that are still going, they're on the phone calling people, reaching out. It's constant reaching out. It's constant emails. We have Facebook posts. We pre-made Facebook posts so that everyone, you share, like the whole schools are sharing, boom, 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 like this is the schedule, so that it's a constant, I don't want to say barrage, but yeah, it's a constant barrage, right? Like it's a constant, if they open their computer, they're getting something from us, and nothing to do with anything other than, hello, we hope you're great. We hope things are positive and you're amazing. We'll see you tonight, or we'll see you this afternoon, right? It's this constant thing. Any questions before we go for Sean, before we move on? No? Okay. All right, Sean, thank you very much. We are going to now move to our most popular classes, the kids classes with Jamin Bagley. Jamin has crushed this. Like Mike said in the chat there, 50 some kids per class, 50 kids per class, because we have to remember that, man, holy cow, they are stuck at home with their parents. And if you could give their parents 20 minutes, oh my God, I know what it's like in my house, right? Like, we have two options right now. We can have a good day or we can learn math. And most of the time it's choosing to have a good day. Screw the math, right? So if we could give the parents a break from that, because they are now all homeschooling and working, this is such a big thing. So Jamin is the director of are you combining age groups? Jamin will get into all of that, Melissa. Like I said, I do not know. He is the director of our kids program and all of the programs, right? So when all of the people that I've talked so far, guys, again, they are overarching for the schools, and then each one of our schools has its own in-school program head. So Jamin is going to take it away.
Thank you, Elliot. I'm excited to be here, guys. And I'll try not to be too redundant, because a lot of what we do in the kids classes is definitely similar to the jiu-jitsu or the Muay Thai, but I'll definitely focus on some of the differences or special considerations, because there are a few that are really useful. For starters, like you said, like I've been teaching for a good while. We've had really successful classes. And when we started these Zoom classes, I was pretty bummed. Like initially, I was really not optimistic about it and thought that it might not catch on and have good traction. But we really have been successful. Like they said, we've been averaging recently like over 50 kids. On Wednesday, I think we had our biggest class where we had 50 something screens and we counted 80 something kids. And so the classes have been really successful. To quickly answer your question, Melissa, it is a combined class. So first I'll talk about our class options, right? Like I think the main class that you should focus on is just an all ages, like fundies class, right? It's a fundamentals, it's an all levels. It's really just for everybody. And that's again, because the main point is connecting. It's not that we're trying to show some high level stuff. We're really just trying to get good engagement with the team. And like Elliot said, give them some options for something physical to do. So we've been doing an all ages class, and we've been doing it at a pretty normal time compared to when we did classes before. That's been really successful. Another class that we have is a family class. That one, is more geared towards specifically having mom or dad or somebody else who maybe isn't as experienced jump in. That one tends to be run a little bit more like a young kids class, like a little Tigers class. And so like having that option definitely, can help if somebody's really young or really new, we can gear them towards that class a little bit. But honestly, like even, some of those really young kids can do fine in the all levels class. One more class that we haven't added yet, but that we're looking to add soon is an advanced class. And I definitely think that this one depends, like I think in the beginning, you should really just start with that all levels class and help build it. But once you have the depth and once you get your experience up with running the Zoom classes and you feel comfortable, I think you can add the advanced or, maybe more like an intermediate type class, just because if you have some of those kids, it might be tough for a bunch of advanced level kids to want to come do like a little kid class. And so I think it is useful to have, something a little bit higher level for them too. So the basic outline for our kids class, and I'll really focus on that like all ages fundamentals class. I definitely always focus on the setup first. So I take a lot of time. I always get on way early. That's super important. Then there's like the before class hangout. So we start letting people in early and they're just there to chat with us. There's the pre-frame, or like Professor Alex said, the intro. I think that's super important. You start your class off right. Then we bow in, we go through the pretty normal warm up. We still do a mat chat, which is like our little character building chat, right? We still do that pretty much like normal. We go through the technique. And then, right now I'm calling it work time because it won't always be live training. We can do that sometimes, but sometimes maybe we're focused more on just doing some high paced drills or something like that. And then at the end, we have like the speech and announcements, and then we bow out, really seriously. After class is super crucial. We definitely do the after class hangout too. So, like Sean said, we're sticking around, letting them ask questions, but we're also really just hanging out because so many of them want that. And then at the very end, once all the students are gone, we always do like an after class review with all of the staff that was there. And that's been huge for us to notice things that, one of us wasn't thinking about and to really improve and get better at stuff. So just to kind of go through and give like a couple of notes for each one. With the setup, Jordan did a great job talking about the tech side, but one note that I have is I think it's really useful to have a large screen or multiple screens, because being able to see them, especially if you have a big class and a bunch of, different accounts logged on, it's really, really useful to still get that engagement. Like I am trying to connect with all the students. I want to see them. I want to give them positive feedback. And so I make a point to connect to the TV every single time. And then I have 2 screens running where I can really see as many people as possible. That's huge. We also, really make sure that everybody knows what their role is. And so like, I think that the tech support is mandatory for the kids. I think if you don't have a backup who's helping you to sort of monitor and help unmute people and notice people who have questions, I think you're going to struggle a little bit to keep up and really give the kids the engagement that they need. And so the tech support is huge. We definitely want them to be on top of it. Having a partner is really useful, obviously, and I want them to know what we're doing, just like in a regular class. And then the assistants are different than the partner. The assistants are more like Zoom assistants. And so they're there as like another moderator for the room. And that gives us more eyes to notice people who have questions. It gives us more voices to give positive feedback, which is just so huge. Like for us to just constantly be saying, that's awesome, Billy. And then another coach is like, yeah, Kira, that's amazing, right? To be able to do that is amazing. And it still really gives it that good team feel. So I definitely think that making use of, some assistance, like have an extra coach if you can jump on to be there to just kind of assist in that way. And they don't even have to be there, doing something on video. Their screen can be black. It's their voice that is so crucial. And so it's really, really helpful to have that. Moving on to like the before hangout, we let them in, honestly, we let them in pretty early because I'm on there pretty early, but most people will start jumping on 10 to 15 early, and it's super helpful. We take that time to label every screen, and I think it's worth it to never miss that, especially with the kids. I want to know their names and I want to make it easy for myself. So as they're joining in and it says like mom's iPad, I change that to their name. If I don't know, I ask them, and I make sure that everyone is written down as the student who's doing the class's name. That has been so helpful. Like I really recommend that. It just makes a huge difference. Then moving into pre-framing, I think that I've seen a couple of instructors do this really well, where they set the tone for class. Elliot talked about doing this really well, just to talk about we're a little uncomfortable, but then also tell people that, that they're going to be muted for most of the class. That's useful. Let them know, like, if you have a question, you need to raise your hand and we're going to be able to unmute you. Give us a second, be patient. That's really, really helpful just to kind of set the tone. And then we also do we can do a quick little mat chat at the beginning to just remind everybody to bring good energy and things like that. That's super important for the kids. We bow in like normal. The warm up is pretty normal. Like we can still do that. We just always make sure to talk about safety, because kids especially will back break fall and just smash through their coffee table or something like that. And so we are mentioning to watch your space and to pay attention to the floor differences that you might have, from the mat. Like that's really, really useful to just consider the safety. And then going into the mat chat, that's also pretty normal. I think it's extra important to speak really clearly, because obviously you could have sound glitches, or if you're speaking quickly and their volume's quiet, they're not going to hear you. So the mat chat's pretty normal. It's pretty simple. I think specialized mat chats for this time are helpful. So we're talking about things like self-discipline and dedication and focus, because these are really going to help us while we're in this weird situation and I'm not there physically. So having the specialized mat chat is helpful. Then in the technique, same thing. I think having specialized technique, or at least making extra consideration, is helpful, because like, Sean was talking about, there's so many different levels of partners and situations. Like they might have a sibling who trains like normal and they can just train totally like normal. They might be working with mom who's never trained before. They might have a teddy bear, which I've actually recommended a lot because it's a good dummy, but that's weird. And so we got to make considerations for that. Or they might be solo, and we have a few of those. And so making the consideration for the technique so it's geared towards as many of those kids as possible is helpful. If you're not changing the technique, you just have to remember those kids. And then maybe you just add on, okay, and now if you're working with the dummy, maybe you do this. If you're working solo, maybe you hit this drill, right? Just really consider those kids so that they're not totally left out. Then it's work time, right? And we're still trying to get them to sweat. We want them to get some work in. And I love doing training. I definitely think it can be dangerous in this time. And so if it's a simple position and they can do some little positional battles, right? I tend to call them mini battles right now. So they understand it's not a full battle. That's awesome. But we might just do some high paced drilling instead, where I set it up like a race. Like, come on, who's about to hit this move like it looks real? Like, let's see who's really drilling right now. And that can be really effective too. So we're still trying to put in some good work. Again, we mentioned safety. We talk about being careful, and then we still consider those who have the different situation, right? They may not have a partner. They may be working with a dummy. And so we want them to be able to put in work in those situations. Then, we're into the speech, and we're just really thanking them for joining us in this weird time. And we still try to have the little motivational bit at the end, especially because we want them to come back. So there's a good call to action to the very next Zoom class. That is really helpful, and it definitely gets us good, recurring visits when we're talking about the next class, and I'll see you there. We also let them know about a lot of the other class options that they have. Like you could go tomorrow at this other class, or hey, here's a couple of drills you guys could try to work on the technique. Like we're really just giving them a lot of options so that they can have really good engagement. And then we bow out, super serious, just like they were saying, we want things to be pretty normal and consistent. And then the after hangout is really useful, again, just for building rapport. Like those kids miss us. And so they really just want to hang out. And so when we get to see them and talk to them, like that's one of the favorite parts, I think, for a lot of them. And you'd be surprised how long some of the kids want to hang out. So you may get to the point where you have to say goodbye. Okay, guys, we're going to talk with the coaches now. So we're going to go ahead and remove you guys. Thank you so much. But then we get to our after class review, which is just super helpful, right? We make sure everybody's gone. And then I'm just talking with the tech support, and I'm talking with the helper, and I'm talking with the assistants about anything weird that happened or that I didn't notice. We're seeing if there's anything that we can do better next time. Doing that has really helped us to learn quickly. I think that has just like helped every class get exponentially better because we really take the time afterwards to talk about it. We go in depth there. And then I just wanted to add a couple of notes that, aren't necessarily within the schedule of a class, but are useful. So discipline, like they talked about correcting people. And with kids, we're not just correcting technique, right? Like they're going to be screwing around. They're going to be goofing off sometimes. And I think it's really important to remember, I always have this mantra in my head, or this idea that I remember in classes, that we praise in public and we reprimand in private. And so if I have something good to say, I want me and every single coaching voice in the room to say, that was amazing, Billy. Like I want them to hear it 1,000 times. But if they're screwing around, for me to go like, Billy, what are you doing? Like that could be in front of 50 people. And so that's not a positive thing to do. We really try to steer away from making like disciplinary corrections. And so we can use the chat option to direct chat people, but even better than that is using the breakout room function. And in Zoom, you can have the moderator of the room, they can send a couple of other people to a private room that's just kind of like off to the side. It's not a part of the main meeting. And they can go in there and have a quick little conversation and then come back. So that's another reason that having assistance is so helpful, because then, if a kid's being really crazy, I mean, like I might not even have to notice it. The moderator could just grab him and a coach and just throw him into another room, and it gets handled right then and there. And then they come back, they've already had to talk about it. That's huge. So consider the discipline. Don't be blasting people in public, and just know that there's cool options that you have from Zoom. And then enthusiasm. Everybody said this, right? Bringing the right kind of energy. Right? I always remember that I need to bring at least 3 times as much as I expect from the students. I think that number goes higher when they're sitting at home, right? I'm probably going to need 5 to 10 times as much energy as I'm expecting from them, because it's pretty easy for them to just sit back and lean against the couch and just check out. So I really want to be firing them up. The connection piece, like Elliot was talking about, our main purpose is not to get money or to really even teach. It's just to connect and keep good engagement. And so make sure that you're really saying everybody's name. Like we have the 3x3 rule in normal classes, trying to say everybody's name 3 times, get appropriate touch 3 times, give a good compliment 3 times. And pieces of that don't work right now, but then we try to go overboard with the naming them and praising them and things like that. So it's really helpful to have the backup again if you have big classes, but I'm trying to touch on everybody repeatedly. And then flexibility, Elliot touched on this too. Be ready to pivot. It's not going to go the way you think it is. And if that happens, if you find yourself struggling or if something just doesn't go your way, don't freak out. Don't crumble because something is weird. Like, they expect it. They know that we're learning and it's not a big deal. Like, failing, learning, and improving is literally what we do in martial arts. And so I don't think anybody's, upset to see us do that real time. It's totally fine. We're just modeling how this works. Like, we're going to get better. And then just to close out, I think that it can be really daunting to do this if you haven't done it before. Like, if you've never done the online class thing, it was daunting to me. And I think if you just have the attitude of like, we're going to keep on improving, you can build a hugely successful program with this. Like, ours is to the point now where we're trying to figure out how to add more classes to kind of break that one up because it's getting so huge. And so if you're consistent with it and you keep on improving, it'll get to that point. But that's pretty much it for the kids. I'll definitely answer some questions too, if anybody has any.
I think all of the questions that were in the chat were answered, I believe. So we will go. Finney, go ahead.
Hey, just a quick question, man. Hey, thank you, brother, for your presentation. Have you guys found, maybe this is both for, Jalen as well as Alex, choosing instructors, do you think for like teaching the kids, does the instructor need to have a partner to be able to demonstrate with? Can they do it on a dummy? I know I saw like Elliot, you had, your son doing it. I feel like that's been a challenge for me so far, is finding instructors, obviously for the Muay Thai, it's different, but for the kids, jiu-jitsu and adult, that actually have somebody to demo on, or do you think they can pull it off by themselves? What's your thoughts?
I'll let Alex talk too, but I think I've seen him do both, which is awesome. He can show it on like the live person and the dummy, and that's really cool. Personally, I would say it really depends on how you're gearing your curriculum. If you focus on having a really simple curriculum that lots of people could do solo, it's fine to show that solo. And then I think it's totally workable to show a lot of what we're doing on a dummy. I think that if that's the situation that you're in, you can absolutely make that work and it can still be really positive. And I still think you need some sort of tech support that could be remote, but I definitely think that you could get away with using the jiu-jitsu dummy or even like a teddy bear. Like, I think it could work.
And you probably, Jamie, you've been doing with a partner at home?
Yes, I've had a partner for almost all of mine, but I have actually considered like doing it a full class just with a dummy. To me, when I had the situation where I was maybe not going to have a partner for a class, it wasn't even a problem in my head. I was just trying to figure out how to get a dummy, and I think that it would still go totally fine.
Yeah, I would like to hop in on that one as well. For the adult side, we're using the 3 levels to kind of dictate what our instructor is using. So in our fundamentals classes, most of our instructors are teaching that class with just a dummy. So that way the student can see exactly what we're expecting out of them in that class. The partner optional class is kind of like that merge between advanced and the fundamentals curriculum. So we're showing kind of on both, like, here's what it would look like with just the pillow. Here's what it'll look like with a partner. Our curriculum reflects that, right? So that fundamentals class will have curriculum that's based on just things that will stay focused on the practitioner and not on what they need, which is they're using the dummy, which can't really participate, right? So we're just focusing on them. And then that all levels class, that one's going to have a little bit of a mix of both, right? Showing a variation of each to make sure everybody's still working, whether they have a partner or not.
Word, thank you guys.
Thank you.
All right, guys, if there's no other questions, we are going to wrap up here. Man, I hope I will say this to close out. Man, first of all, to all the staff, to all of the Easton people, thank you very much. You did an amazing job. Much better than I could do set all by myself. So just remembering that's been a common theme here, guys, that we at Easton are in this together. There's no me, there's no my. I know, when people think of it, they think of Amal mostly, then they think of me, and that is just wholeheartedly not the case. That like we have such a great staff that crushes and handles all the way from like our CEO in Mike Tusignat to our VPs and Valor's on it with another person, Ian Lieberman. And then to all of our program directors, which are next, which really are allow for all of this to happen. So thank you all very much. I know some of you, this is your second one. So as a second webinar with us. So I hope you feel the improvement. I was not happy with my performance on my first one because I had never done it before. Right. So as I've never done a webinar, and I hope that this one went smoother for everyone, where we ran it a little, where I would say I did my work, right? I did my work to make sure that this was an improved webinar from the last webinar that I gave. And then that the next one that we do will be improved again, of how to do this. So just so that you guys can all see that, yeah, I wasn't the most skillful the first time, and hopefully the skill went up, and the Zoom classes are the same, right? The lack of knowledge and the lack of understanding is not an excuse to not do them, right? It is not. So if you're not doing them, jump on them. If you are doing them, how can you do each one better, right? How can you do each one better? It is not, okay, I got this, right? It is, okay, let's level up, let's level up, let's level up. So we are going to try to do this, this webinar thing often. I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. So we will regroup as my team with my team, and we'll hopefully do another one on a different topic rather than Zoom. Jordan, where will this one be if they want to watch this again?
It'll be on our YouTube channel. I'll make sure it gets sent out to everybody. But yeah, it'll be there on demand for anybody who wants to revisit, to take notes or get some information that you missed or share it with somebody.
So man, thank you all very much. You guys are great. You guys are part of what we like. We're all in this together. We're all in this together. This is not something that the martial arts community can separate itself out on, in our opinion, like, oh, this is for us and this is for them. No, we are martial artists at our core. And that means we are a community, a big community, that we are going to rely on each other and that we are going to help each other during this time, so that everyone's school will still be here and still be running and still be crushing when this is all over, because we know what it is. We know what martial arts does for people, for the weak, for the poor, for the unconfident, for the super confident, for the bully and the kid getting bullied, right? For the mom that was a stay-at-home mom, and for the dad that is a stay-at-home dad, and for the mom that's the CEO and the dad that's the CEO. And they come to our schools for a reason. They come to our schools for a reason, and we all need to make sure that all of us, not one school goes out of business during this time. So if there's anything that we can do, or anything like that, then man, please reach out and we will do our best. So thank you all very much. And we will hopefully see you all very soon.
Thank you, guys.
Have a great day, guys.
Thanks, Elliot. Thanks, guys.
Good to see you again, Melissa. Thank you.
Yeah, it was good to see you, Melissa.
Where's the deliver?